my dad was growing up pretty queer-phobic. He's gotten better, but it's not great.
Sure.
So I knew I would be coming out to him a little bit later. Came out to my sister and my brother, and yet they're a few years younger than me, and they're totally fine.
Yeah.
Finally came out to my mom, and that was after months of just feeling like she would say, "Hey, so what have you been up to, these days?" And I didn't want to say, "I've been thinking about my gender." I'd be like, "Nothing much."
So you wanted to connect with her more.
I wanted to connect with her more.
Yeah.
And so came out to her, and
I think people don't realize what a gift that is.
Yeah.
Like that you're actually giving them more of yourself when you come out.
Yes.
That it's not a problem.
Exactly.
That you're starting. It's a gift that you're giving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it took her a minute to adjust, but not that long. She was, it's funny because in in the Hungarian language, there is no separate he and she. It's just
Sure.
It's everyone gets the same pronoun.
Sure.
So
there's a lot of languages like that.
So she would mix up pronouns all the time in English.
Right.
Do the language thing. She's been pretty solid on not messing up my pronouns.
Oh, great.
Like, other than a few times in the beginning, but she was cognizant of it and would correct it quickly. She had while we were talking, she had told me that she had read up on trans stories and things, just kind of, out and about. So she was actually bringing up like, non-binary and things. I'm like, I'm glad we're at that level. I have explored that. Don't worry, Mom. I have explored that.
So it sounds like she was kind of had your back there.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah,
she did.
Yeah.
And
and she was even bringing up different topics for you. Yeah,
so
totally.
It was great.
Yeah.
So coming out to her was great.
I love it when family members actually do their own homework.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I know, right?
Yeah.
So, so it's great to see. So that was a great feeling, and in about April-ish, I started coming out to some of the lodge members.
Okay.
Because my plan was to come out in May on my birthday.
Like fully.
All the way. That's what I was leading up with Facebook.
Right. Well,
and
I mean, you're so fashionable.
Right.
I can't imagine like that would be like just partial there.
Oh yeah.
You gotta do it. Right.
I was so freaking ready. So I made a video. It was me.
Oh, you made a video.
I did. I made a
sweet.
video.
Okay.
It was we actually had a cousin from Ohio. He flew in just to be here for moral support.
Okay.
He's a cousin, but he's more like a big brother.
Okay.
With my wife's side.
Sure.
And so we did that. I made a separate video that was a little bit more of an explanation.
Do you have a big family, by the way? Because you're talking about making a video, so I'm imagining that multiple people would be watching that.
Yes. Yeah. So the video really was to send to my dad, so I wouldn't have to be there.
Oh, I
when
see.
He would.
Okay. So it's to create a little distance.
It was to create distance.
Okay.
It was to give him the space to process things.
Right.
I didn't need to be there for that.
Right. Well, that's really smart, because if you have kind of a fraught relationship and you know how it's going to be taken, probably. Then that's really smart. I mean, that's smart to do that.
It was, once I figured that out, because the previous thought I had was like, okay, on the birthday dinner, I'm going to excuse myself, and then do a little Mrs. Doubtfire, between the main course and dessert.
So you're going to dress and then come back?
That was the original idea.
Okay.
And then I realized,
that's so theatrical.
It is, and I am like that, and my dad appreciates that sort of thing.
Okay.
So,
he might have thought it was a joke, though.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
Plus, then I'd still have to time my Facebook coming out because he would be checking it enough. And once I fell upon the video idea, I was like, well, doing that.
Yeah. I got to interject here, actually. Yeah. The reason why I think that's so smart is because my coming out to my mother, I didn't have much contact with my mother because I was a ward of the state, but a couple times when I was 18, I hung out with her, and we were driving somewhere, and I was coming out as a lesbian. I didn't call myself a lesbian, though. And my mom actually wanted to get me into a dating service, a straight one. She thought I was straight. I had a bald head. I was very butch, but, I was a straight woman, apparently. And she was trying to get me into a dating service, and this is a quote from her, so I could find a good man to take care of me. Okay. And at that point, I just lost it on her. Yeah. And I said, I'm a dyke, and we were in the car, and she literally swerved on the freeway like... And so I like your idea better.
The video
that's much better.
The video was good. It was also for my in-laws because I knew that there was going to be a bit more friction with that, and that's part of the reason why cousin came from Ohio to talk with them and help, so that way I wouldn't have to be there.
Great. Wonderful.
And so I send them the video, then I come out on Facebook, and I was worried that there'd be some mixed reaction, like there'd be some people who would post some transphobic things and things. That didn't happen.
You mean like on Facebook?
Well, like a reaction to my coming out. So I post my coming out video, hey, and I got love and support. A lot of people who knew I was trans made sure to hop on there just to,
reinforce good
behavior. Yeah. And so
I'm so happy for you.
So it worked out great. And then so a couple days before that, I had to take care of with the Mason stuff because that.
Right, because you were in a leadership position.
I was in a leadership position, and that was honestly a part of me that was seriously considering, like, waiting until 2023. But, so I came out to them, and then I said, okay, I'm coming out fully, on this day. What do we do? And he says, well, talk to the Grand Master. So I talked to him, and he said, I've got to enforce the Constitution and Code. I've got to enforce that. That's all I'm going to say. And I said, okay, fair enough. And so I wrote up my letter of withdrawal, sent it out. I cried like it was.
And you mentioned being trans in it, and
in the emailed ones, because I did email out the lodge with a little bit more personal but the official letter, I simply said, due to Constitution and Code U318, I am no longer allowed.
Very formal about it.
I was very formal about that. I use my dead name because that's the name they would know.
Sure.
When I came out to the lodge members on the email, I used my chosen name. And so, so I sent that out, and it hurt, but it was a necessary part because it was a part of me that couldn't move forward. Yeah. It couldn't transition with me.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a form of activism, by the way. I don't know if you consider yourself an activist, but that is activism right there. To take the time to, and I got to say that's incredible. That's amazing that you used your former name as well. I mean, that's really poignant, and you wrote this formal letter, which I'm sure they appreciated in some way, right? Because they're kind of a formal organization.
Yeah.
And then then you came out in a more personal way.
Yes.
As your new self.
Yes.
And I really like that. That's a
Thank
form
you.
of activism, because I'm sure that you affected them. You affected them organizationally because they lost somebody who was a member.
Yeah.
Right? And that's very formal.
Yeah.
But then also they lost somebody who was part of their community.
Yeah.
Right? That's the more personal part.
Yeah.
I'm sure it affected them. I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a number of comments and comments on Facebook because I put it on Facebook. I just left an organization. I was really vague about it, but like those who knew.
Sure.
And they, you know, a lot of them had reached out to me and everything. And it was, they're supportive, they understood. And I think at the very least, and I actually did point that out in the letter. I said, you know, more of us will be coming out.
Yeah.
So if you do have questions about LGBTQ stuff, normally I would tell someone to educate themselves, but you guys get special exception. You can ask me.
More activism.
So
that's even more activism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you're willing to be an educator.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And pointing out that, you know, normally you shouldn't just ask, you know, random trans people to educate you, but like me saying, hey, no, you can come to me.
Right, because it's a burden, it's tiring, you know, oh goodness, yeah. And
one of them actually emailed back saying that he was actually looking up some things. So I was happy to see that. And and then a day or so later, a couple days later, that's when I came out fully on Facebook.
Awesome.
And 2 months after that, name change. I'd gotten the process started shortly before. But
do you have to go to the courts system here?
Yes, I had to go through. So the process was the most mundanely important process. Like, here in Oklahoma County, there was one judge who had denied name changes to trans people. Oh my,
really?
Yeah, he was censured for it. Both times.
Good.
They were both appealed, but it took a couple years to get that appeal.
Wow.
He was censured for it by the judges' organization.
Excellent.
And
thank you.
Yeah. He's no longer a judge in Oklahoma County.
Yeah.
But nobody else does that.
Yeah, a name change is so mundane.
Right.
I mean, people change their names all the time for various reasons.
Exactly. And so I did just a name change, not a gender marker change. The reason is looking at my forms of identity. So in Oklahoma, the governor had made a proclamation basically freezing any sort of changing Oklahoma birth certificates. Completely.
And that was all about trans people?
It was 100% about trans people. He is not afraid to be openly transphobic.
Is he still the governor?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Did he just get reelected right now, or is that in the future? Okay.
He just got reelected.
Oh, bummer.
It's the worst.
It's such a patchwork that's happened.
Yeah.
Like Kansas and Kentucky are like, they were trying to decide on abortion, and they were like, yeah, let's throw that out because we want our liberty.
Right.
And
then,
it's but then right next door there's Missouri, which is doing all kinds of stuff, and lots of stuff is happening anti-trans in these places as well. Yeah. But it's kind of this weird patchwork. People aren't connecting things up. With liberty, with autonomy.
Yeah.
This is not just an issue for trans people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it will be, these sorts of laws will be used against other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone who doesn't fit in.
Yeah. End of life care. I mean, if you don't have some autonomy there, what do you have?
Yeah.
You have no choice.
Yeah. So it's that said, even though the governor and the majority of the state legislature pass laws against trans people, the actual people who are at the county courthouse and the clerks, they're just doing their job,
right?
And they do their job.
Yeah.
I go in there, I dress as myself.
Yeah.
You know, there's no issues.
Yeah. Well, you know, the lawmakers often try to push laws that they know are illegal, that are against the Constitution, and they do it to muck up the process, to actually hurt people, to slow down whatever they're trying to do, like, you know, get health care, or have their rights or whatever. They know what they're doing. Yeah. They know they're just mucking things up, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is one of those that that it sets a tone. That's the problem.
Like socially?
Yes. Because when the governor's up there saying transphobic stuff, what he's
on
also
the news.
saying on the news, what he's also saying is it's okay to say this.
Yeah. Right.
And so some people get emboldened.
Right.
And that's what happens. You know, people get emboldened and start, you know, being more public with their hate.
That's right. And
that's the big problem I see with when leadership, you know, does that.
Yeah, it does. You're right. It does set a tone. For instance, when states do get a more blue governor, I don't even know what they believe in, but I think to myself, maybe they care a little bit more about, you know, other people or their rights, and, you know, giving them health care and that sort of thing.
Right. So yeah, it's it also affects how other people see you. So if I say, oh yeah, I'm from Oklahoma,
right,
unless they know more about me, they might start assuming some things, which,
or why do you live there?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. It's like, well, I mean, you know,
it's where you grew up.
Yeah, where I grew up.
Yeah. Not everybody can live in New York City or San Francisco or wants to. Yeah. You know.
So it's but so far, I will say that living in the metro, as I am, going to, you know, the parts of the city that I go to, well, I have not run into trouble.
This city is great too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the cleanest I've ever seen, ever. It's so clean here and well thought out. It's a great city.
Yeah, it's we try.
Yeah. It seems, I mean, it is in Oklahoma, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma is obviously very diverse.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And it has a certain history, which has a lot of pain in it as well. It has a lot to make up for. I mean, the country does as well. Yeah. But, you know, I see things happening here.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, like I say, in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, the two big metros, that's where a lot of this, or a lot of this sort of activism and education things.
Yeah. I've seen some great activism come from places you wouldn't think that it was coming from.
Right.
Like Northwest Arkansas, up in rural New Hampshire,
right,
in Kentucky, in places where you'd think, oh, everybody's oppressed or something.
Right.
No, there's some really great work happening.
And it's in those places where the activisms need the most.
That's right. That's right. And you get a lot of creative people who are like, I'm going to fix that problem. Yep. Right.
So we've got that going on.
Is there an actual LGBT center here?
Yes, there is. Yeah. So just about to plug Diversity Center.
Okay.
So the Diversity Center of Oklahoma.
I'm glad they call it that, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that's more welcoming, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we do have the rainbow and trans flags out. I started going there a little over a year ago to the trans support group.
Okay.
And
is that fun?
Yeah. It's it's fun in the sense that, like, I feel like I'm connecting with the community. Yeah. That's when I really started making the personal connections, the in-person connections. Was to go to those support group meetings.
Do you feel any mentorship from trans women who may be further along or that sort of thing? I don't know how that works.
Right. I see what you mean. Not quite as much, but I did feel like I was. There was trans woman there who was just starting out, and she had mentioned that she'd want to go shopping for clothes, and I was like, hey, I'll go with you.
Oh, awesome.
Awesome. So, you know.
And that's such a girl thing to do.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's fun. That's great.
It was great.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we've been, you know, there's a core group that's evolving out. And
do you guys go out to dinner or something?
Yeah. Well, tacos.
Actually, let me rephrase that. Sorry, I have a very bad habit of saying "you guys," and that is not actually a good thing. It's actually sexist language. I'm trying to say y'all more.
Y'all is an excellent gender neutral.
Yes. But I gotta catch myself because I'm so used to saying "you guys," and that's kind of a California thing. It's not meant to be gendered, but it is. It is gendered.
It's kind of like dude, you know. Oh, dude, and it's like, I'm not a dude.
Right,
it's
exactly.
Like, well, I didn't mean as a dude. And it's like,
I'm not a dude either. I think of dudes as being kind of dumb. So when people call me dude, I'm like, I'm not dumb.
It's like, what are you trying to say?
Yeah, exactly.
So
anyway,
but yeah, we on the times when diversity doesn't meet, you know, because it meets every 2 weeks.
Sure.
We've started to, you know, go out for tacos.
Have more social.
Went to an art thing. One trans woman, she had made some pottery and was, you know, she was like, "Hey, I'm doing an art pop-up show," and I was like, great. "Okay, yeah, I'm going to that." Great. You know, so you know, like kind of connecting each other and.
Yeah, because it's more than just talking about like. Yeah. Oh, I was having this stressor. Yeah. Or, you know, I mean, there's a place for that.
Yes.
But also just lightening it up and just going and having some fun and, you know, like you were saying, being normal.
Going to the movies.
Yeah.
That's what I did with one of my friends there. She and I, we went to see a couple different movies.
Okay.
And it wasn't inherently about trans or queer stuff or anything really. It was just going out to see some movies.
Yeah. And there's that. And there's also going to those trans or queer movies as well as a visible group that's kind of powerful too.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
I remember going to Boys Don't Cry with when it first came out a really long time ago with a whole bunch of trans women. And it was really powerful because when we got to the lobby afterwards, we were like all crying and, you know, it was kind of intense. Yeah. But sharing that together. Yeah. Sharing that sort of thing together.
Yeah. So yeah, just, and it takes a little bit of time, but I've been lucky enough to be able to have that time.
Yeah.
And
oh, it's pretty quick though. You're pretty quick on that.
Yeah. And like I said, I just kept going.
Yeah.
And once I really started to let myself be myself, that's when it all started to fall into place.
Yeah. And I think you're going to have luck too, also probably with your career as well.
Yes.
Because you're really thinking about what you want.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's one of my friends. He joked that it's like, "Well, Danica, you're going into engineering. I don't think you'll be having any job prospect problems." I was like, "What?" And it's like, "Yeah, a woman in engineering. I mean, that's like,
yes,
they like to see that." I'm like, "Okay,
that's right.
Cool.
That's right. Yeah."
But also the fact that, you know, again, finding myself. One of the professors who I first had a class with, in his syllabus, he has a very specific paragraph that says trans-inclusive statement. If you have a name or pronouns that are different than what shows up, just let me know and I will adjust things. Just like that.
Yeah. And
that was when I was still just questioning. And seeing that just made me think, oh, I can exist.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing that.
It's just a non-issue. It'll be a non-issue.
And and I remember thinking, haha, maybe I should change it to she, her or something, you know, just as a joke. But because again, I was still figuring things out, still in denial.
Sure.
But it was a signal that was nice, and another professor, he put something. He didn't say trans inclusive. He just said name and pronouns. If name and pronouns are different than what's on the university thing, please let me know.
Right.
And his emails had he, him, his.
Yeah. I love that is becoming more common. People complain about it all the time. In fact, I was talking to a trans woman recently who I decided not to interview. I've gotten good at boundaries now. I've gotten a lot better.
That's very important.
Yes. And she said, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to use pronouns." It was like, well, you use pronouns all the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I didn't want to get into it with her.
Yeah.
But I love it that's becoming more common, because it's just a half step away from learning somebody's name.
Right.
Is to learn their pronouns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's one of those that it doesn't take very long. It doesn't take much.
No. It doesn't take anything.
And it's also one that as long as you encourage, but you don't force people to say it if they're not comfortable or if they're not ready.
Oh, sure.
So you don't mandate like everyone must have their pronouns in there.
If you want to.
But you encourage and you invite.
Right.
Invite. And
I like that word.
Yes. Because there's a solid year and a half where if you ask me my pronouns, unless I knew for a fact you were a safe person, I would be forced to either out myself, which I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Or misgender myself. And
I hear you.
Oh,
yeah, totally.
Being forced to misgender myself is a special kind of gut punch.
Yeah, and so I'll tell you from the other side too. When sometimes people expect that if you're trans, you will come out in certain situations.
Right.
But if you're stealth,
right,
you don't really necessarily want to be out.
Exactly.
And that should be also something that's totally respected.
Exactly. And so that I have no illusions of people seeing me other than as trans, but I'm active in in the school PTA. I go to the PTA meetings, zero problems. I'm
great
homeroom parent, homeroom mom.
Great.
We say homeroom parent to encourage people other than women, but I'm a mom, so I'm a homeroom mom.
Yeah, you're a mom.
Zero problems. And the other moms, it's not like they get really cold around me or, I'm treated as a woman.
Yeah.
I'm treated like I belong there.
And why cause problems? Yeah. I mean, you're there for your kids.
Right. Right. So it's...
I mean, it would just be untoward for some peer of yours to be like, what's going on here? Well, you're a parent, and you're there for your kid. Yeah,
exactly. So it's one of those that going back to the whole, I identify as a suburban mom. I mean, I am a suburban mom. Yeah. I do like dress like this. I get to fit in this way. Yeah. And coming out at church wasn't a problem at all. I'm Episcopalian, so that's another thing to put in the mix here. Yes. You have a big cauldron of religious stuff going on here. I have a lot of things. Building, but so Episcopalian, if you don't know, is
I think of it as Catholic Light.
Catholic Light, yes, I was just about to say that. Catholic Light.
So they have the liturgy and the ritual that is similar, but they have a different take on it.
Yes, it's
and a different hierarchy.
Yes, different hierarchy, and it's also tends to be a lot more liberal, a lot. So they have been affirming to LGBTQ people for LGBTQ plus people for some time.
Yes.
And so we hadn't gone to church because of the pandemic. We've been watching on live stream. So when I was ready to come out to my priest, I just texted him and he was totally fine.
Great.
He didn't try to convert me back or anything. He was like, "Oh, great to hear that, sister."
Mm-hmm.
And
just whatever.
Yeah,
cool.
And literally treated me like you know.
That's actually my favorite response. Like when people get a little too gushy.
Yeah.
That's actually, I'm like, no, you don't need to do that, you know. But then also the negative response is, you know, you don't need to do that either. But when it's just like, hey, cool, whatever. Yeah. Let's go on, you know. See you Sunday.
Right. I found that it's helpful to match the person's enthusiasm. Sure. So if someone's coming out to
their tone,
very dramatic, you know, and is, you know, it's very heartfelt, then you don't want to say, all right, cool. Yeah. You want to say, oh, wow, you know, thank you so much for trusting me with that information, you know.
I'm going to push back on that, though, because my experience was when I came out to my first family member as queer really long time ago when I was a teenager, I was really fearful.
Yeah.
But she was just matter of fact. Yeah, she was a rocker lady, my aunt, my favorite aunt. And she was like, yeah, awesome, cool, you know, whatever. She was just her rocker lady. I mean, that's how she is.
Yeah.
Right? She didn't get all gushy on me, which was not her personality in the least. Right?
Yeah. Fair enough. That's good. Yeah.
Right.
So it's so yeah, and
But I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
So it's so I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. We both see that, right?
Yeah.
You got to kind of feel it out. You got to feel it out.
Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So it's great to see that happens more these days. And like I said,
I hope it happens more and more though, because we definitely have some state oppression going on.
Oh, we do.
You know,
and it's one of those that regular everyday people, it can be a little mixed bag, but there's a lot of people who they've gotten to the point, things have gotten to the point where they're just like, okay, fine, yeah, you're trans, cool.
Mm-hmm. What about the Hari Krishna plus Mormon influence? Let's talk about that for a bit, and then how about your own personal politics?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking we'd talk about that interesting combination. So there's Episcopalian, which you're part of still.
Yes.
Okay, and then there's the previous Mason. Life, and then you have Mormon influence and Hari Krishna as well. So let's talk about that. It's such an interesting mix. I mean, wild, in fact.
I know, right? So, like I said, both of these come from my dad.
Yeah.
My dad, when he was younger, had joined the Hari Krishnas, was with them for a bit, and then eventually went on to do other stuff. In the meantime, when my parents were divorcing, my dad had he had a come to Jesus moment, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure what went through his head. I don't want to speculate too hard.
Okay.
But we converted to Mormonism.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about somebody else.
It's hard to talk
their process.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was so long ago.
Yeah.
So we converted to Mormonism when I was 9.
Okay.
And during that, so, you know, I'm told this very conservative set of beliefs on how to live, how to be. I'm told what to do, so, you know, I'm happy. And then a few years into that, my siblings find out that, you know, that my dad used to be vegetarian, so we start, you know, going. So I was vegetarian for a little while. I'm not going to try to count years. I was vegetarian for a bit. And then we...
Thank you.
we went to... we started to go to some of the Hari Krishna temples.
Okay.
And we started to go to
them. This was after the Mormonism?
Yeah. This was during the Mormonism.
Okay.
Let me just emphasize this. We were going to church Sundays, but some Sundays we wouldn't go to Mormon church. We'd drive all the way down to Dallas to the Hari Krishna temple.
That's really far.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
We'd dress up like,
sure,
you know, and everything, which I do want to point out. So I was dressing up.
It's like a tunic, right?
Yeah.
A dress, kind of. Yeah.
Yes. So even though in that cultural lens I was dressing as male, the clothing that I was wearing, coming from the cultural lens I was raised in, was a lot more feminine. So, for one, the underwear, I was wearing Brahmin underwear, which was basically 2 strips of cloth, one that's a belt, another one that loops down through and goes back up. Sure. It was a gaff. It was basically a gaff. I was tucking. Oh. Without knowing that I was tucking.
Interesting. Okay. I wouldn't have even thought of that.
I didn't think of that until years and years later.
Yeah, right.
So I was basically tugging. Yeah. And I was totally happy with it for some reason. And
that's so interesting that your father is going so deep into these religious experiences that are so different. I mean, they come from such different places and they express themselves so differently.
Yes. Yeah. So it was, again, not trying to speculate on what was going through his mind on that, but the things that were similar were no alcohol, tobacco, drugs, gambling, sex before marriage. Okay. And absolutely no queerness.
Sure.
That was just right out. So that's kind of what I was raised.
Yeah, thank you for that little primer, because I had no idea what the connection would be there.
Yes.
So that kind of makes sense.
So that was
a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. That was there. So, the only extra thing with being Mormon was that I was vegetarian on top of it. But otherwise, there was, as far as theology and what happened, I was able to see both as right in a certain way, reincarnation, and with the Mormon theology, there's a series of worlds you go through, and this and that, and
it's so it seems like you're a little bit eclectic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
and Mason, that's also kind of eclectic. I mean, it's very specific.
Yes.
But within it, it's a little bit eclectic.
It is. Yeah. And one thing it did to me is that despite all the queer phobia, which I'll get to in a second, it did let me be able to connect up diverse things and be able to, I guess, be more tolerant of others in a way, be like, I'm not seeing this difference in religion as a gap between us. We can still be friends, etc.
Right. And you can find connections between all of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was one good thing. But the queer phobia, between what else I was raised in and everything, I think subconsciously, and I can only assume it's subconscious because I don't remember it, but just kind of said, okay, let's put all this gender thing in the bottle, pack it away, and away it goes. And
so it really affected you.
Yeah. Just kind of, it really wasn't until I saw that the world became safe for me to start coming out. For me to even figure things out. So before then, the world wasn't safe.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that everything's great now, but we're talking about relative.
Yeah, I understand. Speaking. Yeah. Also, too, like, people complain like they're, I don't know, in some sort of fake moral panic, right? Yeah. About so many trans people are coming out. Oh my goodness, it's right. Whatever. It's because it's safer now. Yes. People were self-censoring. They were suppressing themselves, and they were having discrimination reinforcing that. Yes. Right. Messages from families, from religious leaders, from their community saying, "Don't do that." Yes. It's a supposedly a bad thing. Yeah. So now that it's more open, in various ways, people feel more comfortable being themselves, right? Yeah. So there's more people who are visible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because before I didn't see any good trans representation. You know, why would I want to be either the laughingstock, the murder victim, or the predator?
Right. Because that's all the movies depicted us as, right? Yeah.
That essentially stunted my growth, so to speak.
Yeah.
With that sort of queer phobia, and it took a while.
You know what it does too? What I've heard and what I've experienced, it limits us to a kind of maturity. Like it just kind of stops our maturity. Yeah. Because we don't want to go on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it's. Yeah, and it puts us, you know, dead in our tracks.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely an effect. I stopped going to the Mormon church when I started, and this is why I say I'm an ex-Mormon, is...
Did they ever come after you? Did the door knocking?
Nope.
You gonna come back?
No, they didn't. What happens, they had made a call, you know, checking up on people, and I was like, oh, I don't think I can go that Sunday. And I was not serious about leaving at the time, but then he said, oh, well, I'm guessing you're not planning to come back ever. And I was like, thinking in my head, I wasn't going to go there, but since you brought it up, and I was like, yeah, that's probably. So anyway.
Wow, he made it easy for you.
He made it easy for me, great. So thank you.
Because some people, they hound them, you know, into coming back. Yeah, totally.
So thankfully I didn't have that experience. Yeah. But I did the Hari Krishna part, that sort of also similarly stopped believing as much, so I stopped being a vegetarian, and
it seems like a fully immersive kind of lifestyle too.
Yeah, that one is a lot more fully immersive. That one, there's also elements of enforcing certain traditional gender roles, and
that wasn't gonna happen, right?
Yeah. No. So anyway, so I muddle around eclectically, you know. Then I'm, you know, Mason stuff where, you know, that the only influences there came about from what does it mean to be a man, and you know, that kind of stuff.
It sounds like after kind of this very eclectic upbringing, you continued to be kind of eclectic. Yeah. But you chose how to be eclectic. Yes. Like you chose being a Mason, and then you chose being Episcopalian, right?
Yeah. So there's a whole journey there, and then was it? I guess we can kind of sort of segue into politics, personal politics, because let's
go there. Yeah. Because we've been kind of talking about bigger issues.
We have.
Yeah. But what are your personal politics?
So, my personal politics, I had gone from, you know, conservative Republican, and then eventually made my way into libertarian. Okay. And then
like party libertarian or just small L?
Small L libertarian. Okay. Small L libertarian.
Good, because the Libertarian Party has some problems.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. And then from libertarian to more just like general liberal Democrat. Okay. And then
this is the red to blue pipeline?
Yes. Well, red to blue to other red.
Okay, great.
So, and then into more, you know, socialism, social democrat, that kind of stuff. Okay. So
that's the kind of red you're talking about.
Yes, that's the kind of red.
Are you talking about like formal, like DSA or anything?
Yeah, like that? DSA. Okay. And so I'd start to explore that, and there was a good 2 weeks where I had some panic of like, oh God, I think I might be a socialist, because
wow, all kinds of things are happening here.
So that was back in 2016. Okay. And
you know, I think I've heard from some people that 2016 really pushed them that way, and I love that actually. Yeah, I love that actually.
So it was.
And we all know what happened then.
Yeah.
2016.
Yeah, that was part of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never did get any formal involvement in any activism or anything. I'd gone to a few meetings, and then stopped.
Did you support Bernie's run?
Yes.
Okay. In the primary?
Yeah. So.
What'd you think about that?
Like Bernie in general, or just like
him in general, or what had happened with that? Because I mean, it kind of happened twice.
So the way I see it, the American, we have two big parties. Both of them are right-wing parties.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree with you.
One of them is more centrist, more centrist, but still right-wing.
Yes,
we don't have a true
right-wing.
Labor Party. We don't have a true socialist
party. There you go. I totally agree.
It's, I mean, there's small parties, but we don't have a large one that's actually in the...
I think there's an opportunity, though, especially with ranked choice voting and open primaries. I think there's some opportunity for a little bit more to happen.
Yes.
For people to make their first choice, the one they actually want. You know, but then, you know, let the chips fall as they may, you know, for majorities. Right. But I think there's also room, sorry, I'm kind of interjecting here.
That's okay.
For people to pull away from the main parties and form their own coalitions. Yeah. And make it so that these smaller movements, supposedly, have a little bit more power and respect.
Right. Yeah.
Like progressives. Pull away from the Democrats, because Democrats are not progressive. Yeah. You know?
I mean, they showed that in 2016.
Yeah.
They showed it again in 2020. I mean... Exactly. Biden's a conservative.
Very. He's been a conservative the whole time. Yeah.
Like, you know, it's... I mean, I still voted for him because I wasn't going to vote for the other guy.
And Clinton. I mean,
same thing with Clinton.
Warhawk. Yeah. When she was Secretary of State, that was the perfect role for her. Mm-hmm. If we're going to have somebody who's out there doing that sort of thing, she was perfect for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Neoliberal, though.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, for sure. So to have someone like Bernie there who was, you know, consistently anti-war, if I'm recalling, like he was one of the few that voted against the Iraq War and all that.
For civil rights as well.
And yes, he's been consistent on civil rights and so, you know, what I don't like seeing with some of the left movements is the infighting of impurity tests. It's like, first, let's maybe get something going before we start figuring out who's the better, you know, leftist.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I mean, it's important to work things out, especially on big issues like racism and homophobia, transphobia, all that stuff. And at the same time, not a but, and at the same time, let's, you know, figure out how we can take down this awful power structure that we have.
Yes.
You know, and at the same time, you know, and bring people along with it. Yeah. Don't just cut people off.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And
the right does that all the time. Yeah. They work together. You know? The left isn't working together. Yeah.
Yeah. They, yeah, and that's the thing that's like, let's maybe at least get something going before we start figuring out some of the other, like the minutia, really, you know,
like what kind of universal health care,
exactly.
And then UBI, or you know, there's like a lot of issues to work out, but let's start the ball rolling for some of that. Yeah. Like for instance, the Democrats talk a lot about supporting unions. But do they actually support any unions? Not really. Yeah. Are they pushing it back against what the right, you know, the further right does? Not really. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no true workers' party.
No.
You know, there's two parties that both say they represent the workers, and they don't.
No, they undermine them in different ways.
Oh yes, in different ways. That's the key. Yeah. I generally vote Democrat. Just because that's that's less worse than the other.
Yeah, they call it the lesser evil.
Yeah, the lesser evil.
But there's always the evil part in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
let's get rid of that evil.
Yeah, I know, right? Have something actually there.
Yeah.
But
That's what makes me so mad about the Bernie thing. I mean, I'm not a total Bernie supporter. I really appreciate him and whatnot, but I wasn't on I wasn't feeling the burn or whatever.
Right.
But I just wasn't so into electoral politics. Mm-hmm. But that's what really bothers me, because I feel like Bernie was offering something so good that would help so many people in so many ways. And then the Democrats were like, no, we don't want any of that.
You've heard of the Bernie to Trump pipeline? Where some people who saw Bernie, break the system, really help them. Mm-hmm. Sees Clinton get it, and they say, well, Trump seems like he's going to at least shake things up.
Yeah, with chaos.
Yeah.
He's not the good chaotic. He's the bad chaotic. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yep.
So, generally speaking, like, I also view, teachings of Jesus and things like that with, he did a lot of, he had a lot to say about rich people.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You start reading some of the Gospel of Luke, and some people might say, what kind of socialist propaganda is? Well, it's the Gospel of Luke. It's Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah. Some people have actually taken that really seriously, like, for instance, Tolstoy. Yeah. And, there's this whole line of thought about Christian anarchism.
Yes.
Sort of primitive anarchism, anti-war, about love, about community, mutualism. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's... These days, that's kind of where my thoughts are more. Mm-hmm. Where I'm willing to support whoever's going to get things better. Let's, maybe not kill each other. Let's maybe make sure that people have stuff so that they can live from just being alive, just being a person.
Right.
And
America, in our large S, can do that.
Yeah.
We can do that. We have the resources to do that. I mean, if we can give, literally $1 trillion away every once in a while to these corporations and whatnot,
right,
we can certainly make sure that people can eat and they have places to live.
Yeah.
They have health care. Yeah. It wouldn't take much.
There's enough economic resources that we could be there already.
Yeah, we can get there.
We can at least be much closer to a post-scarcity society.
Yeah, because that scarcity it really does scare people. I mean, part of the word is scare, but and I don't mean it like that.
Right.
But it's there's fear that's instilled in people. Yeah. Like about getting sick, about losing their job and then losing whatever health care that they have. There's so many issues that we could just get rid of. Yeah. And just feel safer. Just everybody. Yeah. Everybody.
And you know what kind of toll that takes on your mind when you're constantly thinking about that?
Right. Or your kids.
Yeah, or your kids. That's always in the background.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, how gender dysphoria, if it's constantly in the back of your head, and then when you start transitioning and it gets better.
Yeah.
Right. Suddenly you're able to do stuff.
What would these programs do? Like, what would single payer universal health care do? If you could just go to the doctor and get something looked at, there'd probably be a whole bunch of preventative care out there. Yeah. That would prevent people from getting cancer or whatever's going on.
They can stop things before it gets worse, before it gets bad enough for an ER.
Exactly. Yeah, because now people rely on the ER all the time. Yeah. When it's past even fixing. Yeah. I mean, you've had the problem. Yeah. And then you have to repair afterwards, right? Yeah. And then, UBI, that's also an idea. What do you think about that? What do you think about UBI?
Yeah. Universal basic income. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's a good idea. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The exact details, I think, can be hammered out. Yeah, yeah. But generally speaking, philosophically speaking, people are going to want we're going to want to do things. Yeah. And when we are tied to a job to be able to, like, I have to do this job because it's what pays the bills. Yeah. I don't get to do what I like.
Right. It limits human creativity.
It limits human creativity. Exactly.
Also, automation.
Yeah.
That's a thing that's going to continue.
Yes. And
we're going to keep losing jobs. So what are we going to do about that as a society?
Wasn't the whole thing about automation to be able to make the workdays smaller? Isn't that how they sold it to us?
Right.
You know, 100 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah, we're going to get these robots in the factory.
Sure.
And your workday
or,
is going to be 3
the
hours.
appliances in your kitchen is going to free up time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing is that bringing in automation should be something that the workers should celebrate as opposed to dread.
Of course they're dreading it, though. Yeah. Because there's nothing to help them on the other side of that. They lose everything.
Yeah. They don't own any part of the workplace to be able to say, hey, we're bringing in this automation. That means I have to work only half as much as I do. That's great.
Yeah.
Because I have stakes in it. Or there's a universal basic income that means that I don't have to worry as bad.
Yeah, right.
If we're in a situation where there is a lot of scarcity of something, of course people are going to, be a little bit more focused on, okay, how am I going to survive?
Right. And that leads to also petty crime and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
If people want to alleviate petty crime, guess what you can do? You can give people money.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, there are studies that have tested these things out, and ideas of universal basic income are not just a philosophical, thought, a thought experiment. It's not a philosophical thought experiment. They have tested.
Yeah. Well, they've looked at Alaska a lot.
Yeah.
Because our PFD, which is a payment, the permanent fund dividend, is basically a yearly income.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very small.
Right. But everyone
this
gets
year,
a check.
Everybody gets a check. If you've been in Alaska for a couple of years and you are a resident there and you fill out the right form, you get that check. And unfortunately, the legislature just decides on it every year instead of just doing it, going by a formula.
Right.
But they like to get their bite of it.
Of course.
And I swear it takes up half the time that they're legislating. So that's one of the things we got to watch out if there's actually UBI.
Yeah.
Is all the administrative time and effort that goes into figuring out how to do it. Because
that's why you have an administration, the civil service that takes care of it.
Well, hopefully they will instead of what happens in Alaska every year.
Yeah.
It's a mess. But, researchers do look at that to see how it improves people's quality of life. And it really does.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people in Alaska are not on a cash system. Yeah. They're doing subsistence. Mm-hmm. And it really helps with the high bills that we have up there. I mean, it's extraordinary, the cost of living up there. So, it helps. It helps everybody.
Yeah. And it's something that's given to you simply because you're a human being.
That's right. And you know what the rich people do? They donate it to causes oftentimes, like to the soup kitchen or whatever. They have that option.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. So so definitely things like UBI, universal education.
Okay.
How
would that be different than what we have now? Are you talking about college, free college?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Free college. That one, the exact mechanics of it, some of it is going to require a little bit of embracing newer technologies and democratization there, where you're streaming. I'm taking classes at North Carolina State. I've never been to North Carolina.
And that really kind of exploded during COVID, that sort of expansion into these programs.
So being able to do that, I mean, my thermo class, it has a chunk of people who go to class because that's where they are, and then it has a whole bunch of distance students.
Right.
And
if that works for you, that's great. Some people like me, it does not work very well for. Or if you don't have a good connection, it doesn't work for them.
Right.
So we really have to improve that infrastructure.
Yes.
And also have the option of being in person if
Yes.
If that works
exactly.
for you. So I'm a more in-person person.
Same here.
Yes.
There's just no good part-time option.
Right. Well, at least you have that option. Now.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And having that available, with having a universal basic income, people can make decisions on what they want to do with the careers without having to have money, without saying...
Right.
Because part of the reason why I want to go into medicine, yeah, sure, I like helping people. I like to be very helpful, things like that, work as part of a team. But it was also a bit because I knew I would have a certain amount of financial security.
Yes.
Or at least I was hoping I'd have a certain amount.
And on the flip side, too, it would encourage more people who are maybe reticent to take out those huge loans, because it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars of loans to get through medical school. Yeah. It would help people to get over that hurdle who really do want to be clinicians of some sort.
Exactly. Yeah. It helps, thinking in engineering terms, it helps bring things to a more efficient and equilibrium state.
Yeah, right.
Like...
So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who would like to be, doctors or something like that. Some sort of clinician, DO, MD. And they would be fantastic about it. But it's frightening to take out loans like that.
Oh, it is. You take it out and you are essentially making a bet that you will do well enough in it, that you'll be able to get a good residency, that you'll be able to get into a good
50 billion steps, and then maybe
so it's not guaranteed, right? So yeah, and then I don't think career change should be viewed as a personal failing. People change, people, evolve and everything, and allowing for that to happen can, by making it free, by having some universal basic income so they don't have to work at a job that takes up studying time, so they can focus instead on studying or interning at a place or something. Yeah,
it would also help young people who... forgiving the loans, for instance. I mean, that's a very hot topic. Right. There are so many young people right now who are foregoing starting families. Yeah. Who are foregoing marriage, who are foregoing, buying a house and getting some stability in their lives because of these loans. And they are predatory loans. Yeah. These are not just regular loans. These are predatory loans.
These are the loans you take out, and it's a bad loan.
It's a bad loan.
But it's the only loan.
Yeah, it's all you could do.
You can't, someone says, make good choices. It's hard to make good choices when there aren't good... Yeah. When those don't exist.
There's no choice.
When there's no choice that's good. Yeah. You make the least bad choice.
Right.
So...
Yeah. There's capitalized interest. I mean, there's high interest in the first place. Then there's capitalized interest. And you can never walk away from these loans. You can walk away from a mortgage. Yeah. Lots of people did that in 2008. Yeah. They just walked away, and they're fine now, right? Yeah. You can never walk away from student loans. Yep. I mean, you can be disabled. You can be on Social Security, whatever. Yeah. You still have to make those payments.
And you brought up disability and being disabled. If you do have a universal basic income, not everybody can work a full-time job. Right. Some of us would love to be able to, work part-time a little bit. If I had the option of going part-time, when I was just figuring out my gender stuff, I would have done that. I don't like being unemployed. I'm a stay-at-home mom right now, but I am looking for work.
Yeah. Well, we've done this before too. We went through flexible work schedules, and this is just something else. This is just another way of looking at work. Yes. I feel like.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's one of those that we're all on this planet together for now.
For now. There's some dream out there of something else.
Yeah,
we have this wonderful planet.
Yeah, we have this planet together.
Let's make the best of it here.
Yes, let's make the best of it. Let's play nice. Let's try to help each other out.
Yeah.
That's honestly one of humanity's, I wouldn't say defining as in only human have it, but working together.
Yeah, and taking care of each other.
Yes. Yeah. We've been doing this for thousands of years.
Right.
This is what gets
We're
us
rather
here.
weak. We're rather weak.
Right?
We don't have big teeth. We don't have big claws.
Yeah, it's working together.
Yeah. So
let's keep doing that. We have the resources to be able to do that. We are already in many ways at that stage, but we've got to let go of certain people have to let go of their egos and be willing to share in what they have.
I agree. And also, like we were saying earlier, the left has to get more active.
Yeah.
They, have to organize better. Maybe not everybody agrees with the same thing.
Sure.
But we can form coalitions that work together. A coalition doesn't have to have the same thoughts about everything.
Exactly. They can come together and say, okay, listen, we need to get healthcare a little bit better.
Right.
So let's all work together on that.
Yeah. We need to work on these goals because the Democrats aren't going to do it. Right?
They're not.
No.
I mean
it's going to take if they do, it's going to take forever, and it's it's too much work. I feel like.
How long did it take for a bill for marriage equality?
Yeah, and think of all the resources that went into that. Oh my goodness. And it's still threatened. Yeah. It is still threatened even after all that.
Yeah. Like after Roe, basically it was dropped. It was like, okay, we got marriage equality. It's like DOMA is still on the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oklahoma has got. And Clarence Thomas kind of threatened it too. I mean,
yeah. No.
That could be next. Yeah. So we have these efforts that are led by activists, and bless them for doing that, and people who want to get married and all the different issues, and then it doesn't get codified.
Yeah.
And then it goes piecemeal, state by state.
Yeah.
And then once again, here we have the state by state happening again. Yeah. We're stripping away rights, and our highest court doesn't have our back.
Yep. Yep. And it's just absolutely frustrating to see that then turn into a political sort of, well, if you want to be able to get your rights back, vote Democrat.
Oh, no. Yeah. Vote blue no matter who, right?
Right. It's like,
no, I'm not just going to vote blue no matter who. I want somebody to actually fight for me.
I would love to have a choice. I would love to have someone who, like, represents much closer to my beliefs. I mean, and
in my state of Alaska, some of the Democrats won't even support a Democrat. They'll support like somebody like Murkowski, who is a Republican. She's a moderate, on various things, but when it comes push to shove, she's still a Republican.
Yeah.
And Democrats will support her over somebody who's progressive.
Yeah.
My God. Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah. It is.
They always move right. They always undermine the progressives.
Yep.
Yeah. Always.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you're that you're thinking that way. Mm-hmm. I love that. You got a lot going on.
Yeah, I do. A lot going on.
Right here.
You wouldn't necessarily be able to tell just from how I look.
I know, suburban mom,
right?
That's what you first said. But
yes.
You got, you're, what a cornucopia of like religious things going on and political. I got to say that's kind of a radical political stance to have right now, right? It's we live in a fairly right-wing country, so you're talking about the left, a stronger left.
Yeah.
You even took on the Masons in kind of this gentle but firm way.
Yes, and it's, to be clear, I don't hate the fraternity.
No, of course not. You were gentle and firm at the same time, you know.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I can tell it was really important to you. And what a loss. What a loss.
Yeah. Would have been nice, but
yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
So
is there anything you want to like end this with, like any sort of advice for other trans women or trans people, or just any kind of final thoughts?
I guess final thoughts are, especially for those kind of starting to figure things out or starting to question, find as many stories as you can.
Sure.
And see what resonates. For those who have a much better idea of what's going on, if you're in a position to be able to talk about being trans and being open about it,
and the wide variety
like
of experiences,
I am not ashamed of being trans. I do not see that as a mark of shame, and I'm glad that the people that I'm around and everything also don't see it as a mark of shame. And so just being a trans person in someone else's life can be important.
Yeah.
So, you know,
it's a part of humanity.
Yeah, it is.
And we've been around for a really long time.
Right. Right?
Yeah. People like to think that it's like this new thing. It's not a new thing. Yeah.
So, but safety is, of course, you know, number one. Like, if you're not able to do it because of safety, completely understandable.
Right.
You know,
people have different life situations.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
So I hadn't really lucky, blessed, privileged, however you want to call it.
Right. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
So thank you for meeting with me. And, you know, you just have such a lovely home here. There's all kinds of things going on.
Yes.
Which, after having met you now, I understand.
Yes.
There's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, there's a cross up here. There's... Yeah. Wow.
It's a...
Unicorn in the corner.
Yep.
Some... what is it? Needlework, which is like traditional kind of thing.
Yeah.
Americana. And a sword.
Yes.
Okay.
My wife.
All right. Your wife.
My wife was always more masculine than me from the beginning.
Okay.
Like when I first started makeup, she was like, "I can put on eyeliner." It's like, "Okay, how do you do the rest?" And she's like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, and you have a bunch of maps in the hallway. That's interesting.
Yep. Yeah. Lots of traveling. When I was a kid, we did a lot of traveling.
Okay.
I lived in China for a little bit when my dad was over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of books and
yeah,
it looks fun. Looks like a fun house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have like parties and stuff and get-togethers, or is it parenting is probably full time?
Parenting is pretty. Yeah. It's
2 little ones.
Yeah, 2 little ones. So it can be a little bit hard. Sometimes we do have some people over. Honestly, most of the time it's because of one of the kids' birthday parties.
Okay.
Or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Well, that's what parenting's about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, totally. I hear you. I live vicariously through that.
Yeah.
So. I love to see good parents.
Yeah. And it was nice that we were able to choose to be parents and it not be thrust upon us.
Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah. All right. Let's end it on that note. Yeah.
Right.
Choice.
Yes,
choice and freedom and working together, mutualism, helping people.
Yeah, all those things.
Yeah, and the joy and the euphoria.
Yes.
Experiencing.
Yeah, it's great to be yourself.
Yeah. Thank you so much for meeting with me. And I love it how fabulous you are, by the way.
You.
Yeah. I'm like the non-fabulous. But I love it. I love the contrast here.
Thank you.
And thank you to the partner, the loving partner in the background. Yes.
So
letting me in your home here. Great. Yeah. All right. Gotta go check on my dog, and somebody invited me over for dinner.
Oh, very nice.
And I'm so excited about that.
Very nice.
Probably gonna take a little nap in between. I did. Yeah. Was it 14 hours of driving in the last 24 hours?
Yeah.
That's too much for me.
That's rough. Yeah. It's rough, buddy.
Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you so much.
So, yeah. Thank you. This is great.